everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy at TV. In case you're not a subscriber yet, please do subscribe. Just press the subscribe button as well as turn on the notification bell so that you can get notifications when we upload our videos. Don't also forget to subscribe and join, follow, like our other social media platforms. Of course, you're seeing it right about now. Don't also forget to share this video across your platforms. Enjoy the video. Welcome back. Nigeria's agricultural potential is boundless, but potential definitely does not feed a nation. At the root of our food insecurity and stunted agribusiness sector lies a chronic financing crisis. Smallholder farmers who produce up to 90% of our food are largely shut out of the formal financial system, leaving them vulnerable, underproductive, and unable to scale. Agriculture remains high risk and low reward for banks, while farmers battle interest rates that kill ambition. But what if we flipped the model? What if financing agriculture became the anchor of our economic diversification and food sovereignty goals? Joining me to tackle these questions is Dr. Steve Ogidan, MNI, a leading voice, of course, in rural development, finance, and inclusive growth strategies. Together, we'll explore what it truly means to finance Nigeria's farms for real growth, not just survival. Dr. Ogidan, welcome, and good to have you on the program.
Good morning, Nancy. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, and welcome to the program. Let's just get into it because we have a lot to discuss, and I'm looking at my time very quickly. I think let's just get into the diagnostics and take a look at how you would characterize the structure of, I would say, and systemic evolution of how agricultural financing in Nigeria has been. What have been the persistent blind spots despite decades of intervention?
Thank you very much. A persistent blind spot in financing agriculture in Nigeria is the abandonment of the small-scale farmers. 80% of our food production in Nigeria is still by the smallholder farmer. And these smallholder farmers don't have the access to finance. And again, coupled with the nature of insecurity in the farmland. We cannot protect the farmers on the land, and then we cannot give them access to credit. These two issues have greatly impacted our food security situation. Then when you had post-harvest losses, you now discover that a whole lot of chains have been broken along the value chain.
So what is the state of agricultural financing right now in the country?
In the country today, less than 5% of financing when the commercial banks go to agriculture. And within those ones going to agriculture, less than 2% go to smallholder farmers. A major challenge is that you cannot leave the rural farmers and the smallholder farmers without financing them and expect to have the result in food security situation. The smallholder farmers produce 80% of the food. They generate more than 75% of the employment in the rural areas, and then we are not giving them this kind of support they need. They cannot protect the land. They cannot have access to credit, and the major activity, extension services, which we put in place to support over 3 million farmers, was dismantled. These are the challenges that we had.
The question right now is from, of course, your analysis, and the report is even there publicly, that given that agriculture receives less than around 5% of even total banks credit, I'll come to the budget later of the federal government to agriculture. How can the Nigerian financial system really be redesigned to reflect agriculture's economic as well as demographic significance?
You see, Nancy, all over the world, development financing is a major tool government and regulators use to stimulate the economy in the direction they want it to go. We want food security. We want to create employment in the rural areas. We must deliberate and we must be intentional in making sure that we give access to finance to the rural farmers, not only the big farmers. So when the rural farmers get access to finance at a reasonable cost at the right time, and we give them appropriate technology coupled with irrigation, and then manage post-harvest losses, we'll be able to achieve the objective we set out to do.
Do you think that Nigeria's agricultural financing problem is really structural? Because if you, from what we've talked about now, I'm assuming, let me play the devil's advocate, that if you talk to the banks now, they'll be like, okay, there are no bankable projects in the agricultural space. There are a lot of risk, weather, flood, and all of that. How do you think that we should address the structural pitfalls?
Number one, we always say when credit is targeted at the rural poor, if it is not exclusive to them, it will be diverted. There's no two ways to it. When we want to fund rural farmers, we must create that window and be intentional in the way the funds get to them. We must create infrastructure to be able to deliver the credit to them, and we must be able to measure the impact that we have done. We can't just go to the television and say, oh, 1 billion naira, 10 billion naira go to rural farmers. Where are they? The federal government has no rural farmers. The state governments have no rural farmers. The rural farmers are the local government. So we must be intentional in engaging with the local government. This local government owns the land. And then we must be able to now know 774 local governments. How many are we targeting in each local government? Where are the farmlands? Where are the farmers? We don't have the data of the farmers. We register farmers. We organize them into geo-cooperatives. And they were producing. Then suddenly, the system was dismantled, and then there was no continuation. These were the challenges that we have. And those institutions that were supposed to support the farmers must be strengthened.
How do we depoliticize agriculture, or, you know, financing to farmers? Because financing to farmers have been so politicized over the last few years. I will speak about, of course, we've seen different interventions.
Different interventions, yes, and different programs.
The
yes.
different programs from perhaps even the 70s and all of that, you know. How do we depoliticize it?
Nancy, we cannot depoliticize it. What we can do is to be intentional. Politics itself is a tool for development.
Yeah.
So as a tool for development, we need to be intentional about it. We need to have the data of our farmers, and we need to strengthen the institutions that are supporting the farmers.
Are you saying that we can't depoliticize it? If, for example, monies that are meant for farmers are given to political cronies, for example...
that is not politicization. That is diversion and criminal diversion. So what we are saying about politicizing is that, look at it, where are the farmers? Where are the sponsors? Where are the leaders of the farmers? Where are the farmer groups? Where are the agro-geo cooperatives? Look at it. Create opportunity for them. Use the Bank of Agriculture. Use NISA Microfinance Bank. Use the cooperatives. When you use these institutions to reach them and you allow the institutions to work, you see, in Nigeria, when we talk of politicization, people think that, oh, it is a way of diverting money to political cronies. No, you must be intentional. Development must get to the people through politics. That is why we voted for leaders. We could have been sleeping in our homes and said we leave it to God. God will not come down to do it for us. We must be able to hold our leaders accountable. Let each state governor say, okay, see what is happening. We have some good examples. See what is happening in Niger State. See what is happening in Borno State. The governors were intentional and deliberate in empowering their farmers. And they are deliberate in managing the farmlands and securing the farmlands, and then using infrastructure, irrigation, mechanization to create employment for more farmers. This is what we are talking about.
You just said what is happening in Niger and
yes,
Borno State.
Borno State, yes.
Can you give us an idea of those things happening?
What we see in Niger is that Niger State governor deliberately remove the heavy lifting from the farmers. What are the heavy lifting? Land preparation, irrigation infrastructure. He put them there, and he put the farmers there to be able to produce more, and is off taking the produce from them. The same thing the governor is doing in Borno State. So why can't other governors look at them? When you look at the budget, which you are coming to later, they say, tell me where your priority is, and I will ask you, where is your money? Wherever your money is where your priority is. The budget of Niger State government for agriculture is more than the entire budget of all southern Nigerian states put together for agriculture. Go and look at the figures. It shows that the governor in Niger is intentional and is deliberate in trying to produce food, whereas others are playing cosmetics services to it. These are areas we need to look at it. There are some things our farmers cannot do. Land preparation, mechanization, managing post-harvest losses. We need to be able to do those ones, and the financial institution must be able to finance them so that they will be able to produce more and the food will get to the market. Then don't talk about the other issues, security. Going to farm is not the problem. Coming back from the farm is the issue.
Even
Thank
going
God.
to farm is a problem now.
Thank God now there's going to be agro rangers and there are going to be forest guard to occupy the space. This is what we have said like 10 years ago. Occupy the space before the bandits will occupy the space. Create these agro rangers, create the forest guard.
Who should be responsible for creating the agro rangers?
It is the federal government. Nigerian civil defense is already doing it. Security is in the hand of the federal and state.
Government.
The land preparation is in the hand of the local government. Everybody must play his own part to be able to move to the level and then give us food security. It's not just one silver bullet. We want to produce food and God will bring it. It won't come.
Can there be a model where the states can also have something like that, since the land is in the possession of the states? The federal government does not have land.
Some states government are already doing it. All they need to do, copy those states governments that are doing it. Let them peer review one another. I give you another example. There are some development partners projects in Nigeria, like IFAD Value Chain Development Program. This project is in 9 states in Nigeria. The success has been applauded all over Africa. Why can't other state governments copy this project and then build the capacity of the farmers to be able to produce more? This is what we can do. This is not difficult. It's not rocket science.
It seems like rocket science.
It's not. It's just because we are not intentional. It's just because we are not putting our money where our heart is, and we are not encouraging the farmer to be able to produce more. If they say they are exporting our rice, fine, let us produce more and export. If they say people from other African countries are coming to take our grains from here, yes, let them come. We will get more money. We will be able to produce more. Our land is enough to feed the entire West Africa. All we need to do, empower the farmers, create irrigation infrastructure, and then manage post-harvest losses.
Can we do that with smallholder farmers?
We cannot do without smallholder farmers, because they are the
also
ones.
Aging.
They are aging, the youths are coming.
The youths are coming in,
You see,
bringing in technology and the rest.
You see, there are different models that are already working. Unbundle the value chain. When you unbundle the value chain, you cannot be the seed producer, the primary producer, the post-harvest manager, and marketers. The youths are ready to go into agriculture if the heavy lifting can be taken over by the states. What are the heavy lifting? Clear the land, create irrigation infrastructure, then manage post-harvest losses, and then use insurance to manage the risk.
How does the state government get the smallholder farmers? Because even the smallholder farmers are in our villages, they are like in their ancestral lands and all of, because most of them are farming even in their ancestral lands.
Yes. Nancy, as of today, who controls the local government? The state government. So all they need to do, register your farmers in their local government, create the land for them, build their capacity, get people to train them, to teach them. When we introduced Farmers Business Radio, it was one of the most successful projects that the farmers in the rural areas keyed into, because it would tell them when to plant, when to harvest, when to go to the market. These things can be done again. All they need to do is to, one, create the database of the farmers, then create a financing mechanism for them, then give them appropriate seedling and bring irrigation to them, and then use insurance to be able to manage the risk. The youths are not asking for too many things. All they are asking for protection, financing, and off-taking. There are some other small projects that are happening across Nigeria.
If we take a look at this financing thing, because you're saying, okay, the government should do the heavy lifting, is it also fair to put it on Nigerian banks that use perhaps financing risk models that are not appropriate for our farms? You know, in terms of, okay, you want to give loans to something that is long-term, and we know that Nigerian banks are going for short-term things. How do we now evaluate those kind of risks? Is it really fair to put the burden on Nigerian banks to say, okay, you guys should finance agriculture, or should there be a paradigm shift in terms of financing model?
Thank you, Nancy. Why the banks are business people?
People, yes.
They will only follow where the money is. Remove the risk, de-risk agriculture, use blended finance, they will run there. Why are they not funding? They are not funding now because of weather dependency. If you introduce irrigation, the farmers are no longer depending on weather. The farmers will fund, the banks will fund it. The lack of collateral, if you give them title to the land, the ancestral land you are talking about, the bank will use it as a collateral and give them loan. Then poor record keeping. If you manage the records of the farmer and you create warehouse financing, the banks will fund it. It is because those structures are not there. And those were the structures that at a time the government was trying to do before central bank dropped the ball of development financing and then the infrastructure deficit. By the time you do all those things, what is irrigation financing? It is asset finance. And then again, it is encouraging agriculture. By the time we do all those things, we'll be able to encourage our farmers. The youth will stay in the rural areas. They will not come to Abuja. And then they will be able to produce food for us to eat.
Let's talk about the area of blended finance, which is very key. Let's take a look at the development finance space that we've seen in the last few years and what the central bank, of course, was key in terms of anchor borrowers program. There were a lot of programs, the AADD. Yes, there are many of them, I can't, you know. How with Cardoso Central Bank now pulling away and saying that this central bank is purely orthodox in nature, it has created a gap. You were talking about de-risk agriculture.
Yes.
NISAL, as an organization, was created during Sanusi Lamidi's central bank to de-risk agriculture. Now, what is the position of NISAL? Because the Central Bank of Nigeria, you know, really created NISAL. You know, some years ago, was it 2009 or so, created NISAL. Then we now have, of course, NISAL MFB, which we'll come to in a bit. Who fills in that gap right now? I also know there are plans to inject 1.5 trillion naira into the Bank of Agriculture. That has really been comatose. I've said it here for many years in terms of Bank of Agriculture. Where are you? Now there's a new chief executive officer. Will that gap be filled?
You see, let's start with the Bank of Agriculture. The Bank of Agriculture is going through some transformation. And we believe with this transformation, they will be able to focus more on rural farmers and do more. But when you look at the space of development financing all over the world, there's no central bank that is not doing development financing.
In what way?
In the way they do development financing, sometimes you inject money into agriculture, sometimes you inject money into pharmaceutical. Just this money, NESIM and Bank of Industry, they are injecting, Afrexim and Bank of Industry, they are injecting $75 million into Nigeria pharmaceutical industry.
But those are development finance organized, purely development finance, not central banking.
I agree with you. If it is not endorsed by central bank, it will not be done. The central bank should be able to support development financing through the various tools. NISA Microfinance Bank is owned by central bank.
Yes.
Then NISA itself was set up by central bank to de-risk agriculture. When there is limited capacity of operators of those institutions, they will lose the mandate for which they were set up. So what we need to do is that, look, NISA Microfinance Bank is going through some transformation now. They will now be able to be intentional. The central bank cannot say, oh, I don't want to do development financing. Direct the institutions that are supposed to do development financing to do it. Your job is to monitor them. Your job is to create the regulatory environment.
Where will the money come from?
Because
the Cardoso Central Bank now is purely focused. I've heard the governor speak several. He's told me that many times. This is orthodox. I'm looking at orthodox central banking. I don't want to divert, even though we'll support, you know, but his focus is on orthodox central banking. Let's bring interest rates, let's bring inflation down, let's do all the things we're supposed to do, ways and means, reduce it, and all of that. That is what the governor is focused on now. So how do you expect this central banking to come into development finance? Because if you say they're coming into development finance, they're going to be bringing their monies into it.
It's not only money. You see,
and they are not ready to do that.
When you want to do development finance,
they are not ready to do that
when
now.
When you create an enabling environment, development funding will come from public-private partnership. People are ready to put in their money if there's guarantee of return on their investment. And this is why we talk of blended finance. It has happened in other countries and it can happen here.
Dr. Ogidan, don't you think that also part of why the central bank is coming to development finances as a result of the failure of the institutions that are supposed to be concerned with development finance? The Bank of Agriculture, comatose for a long time. Bank of Industry doing what it's supposed to do, but it needed also recapitalization, and the president also agrees to that and has been able to, is planning to inject more capital into BOI.
You see, you are talking of money, you are talking of funding, Nancy, because in Nigeria, we have this challenge of throwing money at problems. They say the people are hungry, give them some money. They say the institution is not doing it, give them some money. It's not only money. No matter how much money you inject into a development finance institution, without capacity to deliver, they will not deliver. Why is Bank of Industry doing well? It is because of capacity. They have capacity. They have a focused leadership. We need to empower those our institutions to be able to deliver very well. You need to be able to encourage them. You need to be able to train them. You need to be able to build the capacity, even the farmers. So when you do all those things, funding is the last thing. And the last thing will come even from the private sector if the capacity is there and if the infrastructure is there. There are many private people. Origin, you know Origin as a company is doing fantastically well. It's not government money. It's private money. Alano Green is one of my mentees. They are doing fantastically well when it comes to irrigation. They are doing well. It's private sector money. The moment the system is calibrated to deliver on the mandate it is set out to do, it will deliver, not only money.
So you insist that the Central Bank of Nigeria should still be part of
the Central Bank of Nigeria must invest in development finance. They must support development financing because it is a tool to make sure that the economy does very well.
That support should be in form of what? I want
support,
to get you right because
the support
you're saying
should
that
come
everything is
in the
money.
form of one, create an enabling environment. Number two, build the capacity of the institution.
You mean create an enabling environment by making perhaps interest rates lower for farmers?
Interest rate lower for farmers.
Credits.
Interest rates lower for farmers. Remove the risk for the farmers, and then create a market opportunity where the farmers will be able to push their goods to the market. Have collaboration. You can't do it alone. You need to. They need to see the hands of the central bank in encouraging that, look, these farmers will get loan at single-digit interest rate. When they produce, the big companies, the flour mills of this world, will offtake from the farmers. And then the companies like Origin that are coming in with infrastructure for irrigation, they get low funding from the central bank to be able to deliver. And that is how we'll be able to, it's a whole ecosystem that we need to work on together to be able to deliver on what we are doing. Okay. Then there must be transparent supply chain tracking from the seedling company, from the research and development. CBN can fund research and development. They can fund research and development so that our farmers will be able to have appropriate seedling and they will be able to have post-harvest technology that will be able to deliver on their
So what will be the role of Bank of Agriculture in this?
The role of Bank of Agriculture.
Design that we're talking about, rethinking financing.
The role of Bank of Agriculture is funding. Funding.
The rural farmers.
Rural farmers. Fixing the value chain, then creating market opportunities, linking the buyer with the sellers, making sure that you fund some aspect of R&D to be able to organize the farmers into manageable units and then be able to track the activities that are happening on the field. Ministry
of Agriculture and Rural Development, what should not be their role here?
The ministry is a policy. It holds the policy space. And they have the summoning power to aggregate every actors to the table and say, come, Bank of Agriculture, what do you bring to the table? The private people, what do you bring to the table? The funding agency, what do you bring to the table? And create a seamless handshake between them. And then where there is a problem within the value chain, they should fix the value chain.
But we've also seen a seeming failure around policy governance, and that comes also from the Ministry of Agriculture. There was a time our Ministry of Agriculture, I think, was sharing, is it fertilizers and all
you see, I won't speak for the ministry. But in the last 2 years, a whole lot of activities had happened in the Ministry of Agriculture to refocus the ministry to be able to manage the policy space so that other actors will be able to play. Why are the commercial banks not lending? They want guarantee. They want to be assured that our money will come back. And they want to be sure that, look, if we put our money there, we are going to get the kind of returns we are expecting. Those are the work of the Ministry of Agriculture. Create handshake between the funders and the farmers, then build the capacity of the farmers, then announce to them appropriate technology. This is the new thing that is happening. This is what we need to do. If flood is coming, it is not the job of the farmer to know. Minister of Agriculture should talk to NIMET. NIMET should be able to talk to the other people and say, look, go and harvest. That was what we were doing with Farmers Business Radio, educating the farmer. They cannot pay for this education. The ministry should be able to pay for this education, should be able to encourage them and be able to create a stability in the sector that the insurance company will insure the asset and the farmers will be able to use them over a period of time.
How much should the government be so vested in terms of agriculture? And I'm asking this question on the basis, I think in July of 2023, in the heat of the cost of living crisis, the president came out to announce food security measures committee and all of that, gave mandate to the bank, to the Ministry of Agriculture, I know we had a town hall then, whether in 2023 or so, where we had the Minister of State for Agriculture coming to tell us, okay, these are the things that we're doing, because all those things that we're talking about also would lead to food being on the table of Nigerians. How much do you think that the Ministry of Agriculture has done? Because you're saying, of course, theirs is policy, but the president is also taking a look at them in terms of, these are some of the challenges that we're having in that sector, and I need you guys to step up. I will also come to subnationals, because
Yes.
subnationals also have their own Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes. Thank you very much, Nancy. You see, all over the world, the most important goal of development is poverty alleviation. Whether you are producing food, whether you are doing road and everything. So government must be able to see that, look, we are creating an enabling environment for these farmers to be able to produce. We are creating a situation where there is no market distortion, the removal of the middlemen, to make sure that even when these farmers produce, the middlemen don't unnecessarily escalate the prices and create cost of living crisis for the people. So the role of the government is to make sure that everybody does what it's supposed to do. The ministry should do what it's supposed to do, the bank should do what they are supposed to do, and the private sector should be coming without distorting the life of the people, of the rural farmers. Everybody has a role to play. No one person can do it all. Everybody must come to the table and say, this is what I bring to the table, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it. We don't need to exploit our farmers, and we don't need to get our farmers to start paying for security. They must be able to be secured, and we must be able to guide them.
In 2025's budget, federal government now, I think the amount here marked for agriculture was around 825 billion naira, if I'm not mistaken, which is around less than 2% of the budget. From that amount, I don't know how much has been disbursed. This is June now.
Yes.
The federal government says it would support farmers with 132 billion naira through the National Agricultural Fund, Development Fund,
NADF.
the NADF. The question is now, how much of that money has gone to farmers? Who are the farmers? Have the money even been released in the first place? Because it's one
Nancy,
thing to even state something, it's one thing to release.
You see, the first problem we had with our budgeting is that, according to Maputo Declaration and Malabo Declaration, all Nigeria is a signatory to the two covenants. We said at least 10% of our annual budget should fund agriculture. Now we are doing less than 2%. From that point, it shows that we're not serious. For us to be serious, at least 10% of our annual budget should fund agriculture. Not only agriculture, livestock development. Thank God the president has created the Ministry of Livestock Development. That is a major bold step, because that is the forgotten leg of agricultural development. So we need to first make sure budget enough. And when you now budget enough, where do you now spend the money? It's not just a question of sharing money to the farmers. Give the farmers what they need. They need input. They need appropriate seedling. There are some institutions that have been established. Nigeria Seed Company is part of them. Research and development institutes are there. Are we funding research, or are we doing the same agriculture the way our father did it? So we must be able to look at all those things together before we now say, oh, 1 billion naira has been sent, 2 billion naira has been sent. It's not how much, it's how well. Where have this money been deployed? And the ministry should be intentional in strengthening the institutions that are under the ministry, so that they will be able to perform their job very well. If they are not strengthening, forget about it.
Can we really get that 10% allocation to agriculture when majority of our funding goes to security, fighting security? And it's been like that. It even increases every year. Perhaps this year, I think about 7 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, to security, or even more.
That is
so
why,
wouldn't that even inhibit?
That is why all of us have a role to play. We need to first make sure that we address this question of insecurity, not only government. Everybody, when you see something, say something. If we're able to address so money that is going to insecurity, to insecurity management, we now come to address other issues, healthcare, health, and everything. So we have our own role to play as individuals. We always focus our attention at the federal government. Let's go to subnational government, the local government, the state government. They must be able to fund agriculture. The farmers are not federal farmers. They are local government farmers, and they are in the rural areas. And we must be able to encourage our youth to be able to take into agriculture as appropriate vocation and opportunity for them to be able to produce.
Anchor Borrowers program, very popular. There's a gap now, isn't
Anchor
it?
Borrower is no longer there.
Yes, it's no longer there because of Who do you think should fill that gap? Because it just occurred to me now.
Bank of Agriculture is a natural
Yes,
person to
fill that gap.
Yes.
Will you do that with a 1.5 trillion with a...
Well, I think you will bring their managing director
Yes,
to
I
come
will.
and talk to you, because I know a whole lot of things have been going on around restructuring the Bank of Agriculture in terms of manpower, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of technology. There are a lot of things that we used to do with people running around the street. Technology can deliver. The farmers are no longer on the street, they are online. We must be able to use technology to be able to reach them. We must be able to...
How many farmers are online?
They are, there's no, and I don't want to say all of them, at least 80% of our farmers today have telephone. Nigeria is the highest teledensity in Africa.
Yes,
so with telephone, you can reach them. We use it, you see, when we started the Farmers Business Radio, with a USSD code, you can, with partnership with MTN, the farmer can ask questions on which we raise maize farmer, yam farmer, millet farmer, whatever you are doing. So we underestimate the capacity of our farmers. So, and we need to build them into the financial inclusion bracket. And when you are doing all those things, the farmer will now know that, one, this government believes in us, and they are supporting us to be able to reach out to our people, and then they will be able to do whatever they are supposed to do.
Are we seeing enough agri-fintech platforms in Nigeria?
There is enough, and there is even expanding by day. The blockchain financing, the opportunity for them to be able, this was started long ago when the former president of AFDB, Akinwumi Adesina, the outgoing president, when he started using telephone to distribute fertilizer. It is because we did not build on that structure. We will have built on that structure today that, look, any financing, any seed support that we want to give to the farmers, we are using their telephone to reach them. And with telephone, you create identity. Then you know who is getting what, when and how. So fintech company can really help us to be able to drive them. You can see what the fintech companies are doing. We can use them to deliver credit to the farmers. And the farmers don't need cash. What they need is their input. The little cash they need is for their farm management. So we can create this opportunity for them, organize them into geo-cooperative, train them, build their capacity, explain to them what they can do, and offtake from them when they produce. Technology can really help us to be able to do better.
Can we design rural finance, that is rural farming finance and urban farming finance the same way? Or let me put it this way, small farmers finance and big farmers finance the same way. What would it take for us to build a true last mile rural financial system that is inclusive, profitable, and also scalable? Because even the big farmers, I don't want to mention their names.
Yes.
Is it the same type of financing that those category of
You
people
cannot
need?
use the same financing for the big farmer and the rural farmers. And for the rural farmers, the most profitable and sustainable model, which we have experimented with in Nigeria with my company and which we have done across Africa, is that you cannot be financing 1 million farmers as single farmers. You must organize them into geo-cooperative. An average smallholder farmer is operating less than 2 hectares. And so when you ask bank to go and farm them, they will say to me, how many bags of fertilizer? But when you organize them into agro-geo-cooperative for 50, 100 farmers, and then you now ask banks to fund them, and they see a big ticket, it makes it easier for them to be able to do. And when you called in the mechanization expert and say, go there, go and clear the land for them, they know they are dealing with 100 hectares, 250 hectares in the block. It speaks to finance and makes it easy. Unfortunately, the people that are supposed to be driving it have limited knowledge of the financing framework and the opportunity, but the models are there. We are not reinventing the wheel. It has happened before. It can happen again. We can reinvent, recalibrate what has been dormant, and then support the farmers to be able to do well. All we need is focused leadership. We gave you the example of what Niger State Governor is doing, what Borno State Governor is doing. So those people are there. And the governor is not doing himself. He has a good team that is driving the project. Those are the kind of things we must see all over. By the time we have 36 of them across the country, and FCT 37, and you now have 774 local government. The 774 local government, we don't need all of them. Half of them is enough. So by the time you get half of them to be able to key in, support their farmers, you will be amazed the kind of production that will take place in Nigeria and the kind of development that you will see in the rural areas.
The World Food Program says that 33 million Nigerians are food insecure.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we have high post-harvest losses. Are there financing mechanisms that can specifically target productivity and value chain inefficiencies, especially at the subnationals?
At the
because that's where
whether
food is produced.
Whether national, anywhere, there are technologies that can address post-harvest losses. There are technologies that can improve productivity. One of them is research and development. You cannot be using the same technology our grandfather used to do it. There are some seedlings that can give you times 3 of the yield. So that is why government should invest in research and development.
No, but we
The
already
seed,
have a lot of
those ones,
researches on the
we
shelves.
must take this research from the shelf and deliver it to the farm gate.
Whose
and give it to the
responsibility
farmer.
is that?
There are institutions set up for that one. Nigeria Agricultural Development Fund is supposed to be doing that. NISA was doing that before at the beginning. I don't know what is happening to them now. So those are the kind of things they need to do. Farmers need guidance. They need appropriate technology. IFAD Value Chain Development Program is doing that. Niger Delta IFAD Life Project is doing it. There are pockets of these people that have been very successful. What we need to do is to replicate it and then drive with them, and then the situation will be better for Nigeria. Instead of everybody operating in a silo, you are doing your own, you don't know what I'm doing. That is why I said the summoning power of the Federal Ministry of Agri should bring everybody around the table and say, what are you supposed to do? We have challenge in R&D. We have challenge in weather prediction. NIMET, what are you doing? We have challenge in access to finance. Central Bank and the commercial bank, what are you doing? Everybody must be able to bring something to the table and drive the
How do we
project.
finance not just food production? Because this topic is not just about food production. And I don't want anyone to be jinxed to think that we're talking about financing food production. We're talking about financing the food systems, including storage, distribution, cold chain, market access, and all of that. Do you think that we're a little bit jaundiced around? Because when we're talking about food financing, okay, food production, how do we, we've had less of financing around the value chain where the business lies, that we also create jobs.
You see, Nancy, the challenge of food security is about 25% production. The remaining 75% is in the other value chain. The marketing, the logistics, the cold chain management. So, and the financing of those aspects is not just a question of farming. It's a question of logistics. It's a question of infrastructure. And it's a question of appropriate technology to be able to drive that. And many private people are already doing that. What they need is support to be able to deliver and do very well. We know many of the people that are doing post-harvest management, but the numbers are far in between, and they are not many, and they don't get the kind of support they need to be able to drive the kind of result we want to get. Then we need early warning system for pest management and control, and we need to strengthen insurance, because it is a major missing link. Because if I know that if I take my produce from Kano and I'm taking it to Lagos, 21 trailers, and something happened, insurance will pay. Let me give you an example. There was a time we were working on Kano-Kura rice corridor. There was one of the logistics operators in Kura. He told us, he said, if you push 21 trailers of rice on the road to Lagos, only 17 will arrive. The remaining will have accident or be stolen. He said, but if you push 21 trailers on the way to Libya, the moment they cross the border of Nigeria, it can go and sleep. All of them will get to Libya. He said that is why he did not put his rice on the way to Lagos. He put them on the road to Libya. Because there's insurance, the roads are good, and everything will be sure. So we need to do a whole lot of things to make sure that our roads are safer and the goods will get to their destination.
As we conclude, women, I have to bring in that part.
Yes.
Because we have a lot more women in the farming space, food production,
yes,
than men. So we feed the nation, as it were, but women's access to finance is also limited. How are we able to upscale that? Then, as we also end, just put the two answers in one. What do you think that President Tinubu's vision should be? He still has 2 years, even though he's already talking of 2027. We want President Tinubu to still focus on the remaining 2 years. What do you think his focus should be for agriculture in the next 2 years?
You started with the women.
Yes.
For the women, I will say organize them better into cooperatives so that they can access credit en bloc.
Whose role is that?
That is the work of the local government.
Okay.
Organize the local government. The local government should organize the women into women cooperative. Many of them are already doing that. And then we must be able to encourage them, and those institutions must be able to give them credit. Then for what the president should be doing, the president must act as a facilitator as well as a participant. As a facilitator, you must create an enabling environment. Call the ministry to account for what they are doing, call the financial institution to account. Then strengthen the credit guarantee scheme. They are already doing something like that. They need to strengthen it and focus more on food production. And as a participant, you must continuously ask questions. What are we doing right? Direct funding where there is challenge, they must be able to do it. There are so many organizations. Then adequate communication. Government is doing a lot that people did not know. They need to strengthen their communication and say, this is what we are doing. If you create windows for funding and the people don't have information about it, they will say nothing is happening. And perception is reality most of the time in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that insightful. How many minutes now? Close to 30 minutes or more than that. We're talking about financing the farms, and I hope that those that are supposed to listen are listening and do the needful. Thank you very much, Dr. Ogidan.
Thank you, Nancy. Good to see you.
Good to see you again, sir. All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Stephen Ogidan, and we've been at, he's the MD of Sorcery Limited. Yes, and from the discussion, definitely you will know that he has foresight into what we're discussing. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you for staying tuned. As always, please join me again tomorrow. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye for now. Thank you for making it up to this minute watching the video. Thank you all. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV. Like, follow all our other social media platforms where we keep you up to speed with fantastic interviews, as well as markets, personal finance, business, and economy information. This is the best place to be. I'll see you all again in the next video.